welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us to discuss the breaking Kentucky political news of the week. We got a couple of amazing guests this week. Representative Cherlynn Stevenson, who's one of the Democratic leaders in Frankfort, also has the distinction of being in one of the tightest seats on the highly gerrymandered state house map. We're going to talk about her race. We're talking about other critical House races across the Commonwealth. Then we're going to talk with Representative Nema Kulkarni about her New Americans Initiative, as well as her own complicated effort to remain in the legislature. Finally, we're going to close out with a heartfelt invitation to join us in a week and pitch in to do something between now and November. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We are absolutely thrilled you're here. We hope you agree with us that Kentucky deserves better than Mitch McConnell, than Jamie Comer, than Andy Big Banks Barr, and the GOP supermajorities in the General Assembly who block our governor time and time again from moving Kentucky forward. Despite the challenges facing our state, we've had some highlights, right? So if you remember way back, we rejected Amendment 2 to keep abortion protections in our state constitution. For all the good that did us, we showed up and we turned out and we voted to reject that amendment. We reelected Andy. That felt good. That was cool. So we can do good things statewide in Kentucky, but it is clear there's lots of work to do to win better electoral outcomes across the board. So unless you want your tax dollars siphoned away from public schools and sent to unaccountable religious schools or kicked back to rich folks, in which case, just sit there, right? But between now and this November, 55 days from now is the election. We're going to be working for better electoral outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign for a more compassionate Commonwealth. Make your contribution right now via our secure Act Blue server. Help turn Kentucky purple. $5, $50, $500, whatever you can, whatever you think this state is worth investing in, go ahead and throw it in there. And we will work diligently to put it to good work and make a difference in this great state. So now let's check in with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what are you protesting, maybe celebrating today. Maybe if you're on a high, I don't know, maybe there's something that happened recently that was good news for you. Anyway, you on the internet, we mean you too. We want to hear what you're protesting or celebrating today. Put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. My sign, I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Lexington, from Childsburg. Is the specific vinyl siding all over the place community. But my sign says, the debate was great. Now let's swing this state. I like a little rhyming in my signs. All right. So Kimberly, are you there?
Hello? I just want to say concerning last night, I just have to do this. I mean, it was an annihilation on Donald Trump, our former so-called president of the United States. So my protest sign would say today, thank you, Madam Vice President.
Nice. Yeah, it was a show, that is for sure. All right, I think we got another co-host with us. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, howdy everybody. I'm here in Berea, Kentucky, and my protest sign says, hold on to your cats. Because I cannot believe that Trump was baited so badly that he started rambling about immigrants eating cats and dogs. Like, it was just wow.
Just wow. All right, so I know, hey, we are a Kentucky political news show or something. But we should just talk about that, right? Because it was something. It's, does it change the outcome in Kentucky? Probably not. We're still a bright red state on a lot of levels. But man, she really handed him his rear end, and he, got all angry and took it, and then showed it, and it was just bad. It was just a bad performance.
Yeah, it was terrible for Trump. And I don't think any Trump voter watching it probably thought that he lost because he was still Trumpy. But rational people on the fence, or leaning any slightly one way or another, I think could probably tell that there was definitely one person more composed and able to deliver a coherent argument.
Yeah. Yeah. One was, hinged, one was unhinged. I don't know. And I think for her, people wanted to see her in action because, the folks she needs to get to, the people who don't pay a lot of attention, right? This was their chance to see her. And did she look presidential? And I think, yeah, she checked all those boxes. She had, policies. So those seemed like good policies, she could describe them clearly more than four, I don't know, 4 lines or whatever he said. But yeah, I think it was a good performance by her. I think, it was a horrible performance by him. And I will say this, I think the thing, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk about, kind of what you thought, Kimberly, but I think the thing that mattered the most about last night is, and you guys are going to laugh, I think the Taylor Swift endorsement was quite possibly the most important and useful thing for her campaign and her candidacy that happened last night. And I can tell you why. Kimberly, what do you think?
I think the same exact thing. I mean, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you disappeared for a minute.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
I left somewhere. Okay. So, actually, I think that endorsement from Taylor Swift is going to do a lot for the campaign. And I also think that Kamala can show her that she's authentic as well, and that the young people love her. Like Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell, they were talking about, Trump appeared to look old, disoriented. All the things they said about President Biden, they said about Trump last night. And I didn't feel sorry for him. However, I had some pity for him because he did horribly. It was absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I'm assuming that there was coordination with the campaign and Taylor Swift, right? Because the timing of that is so useful, right? Because here it is, Kamala kicks Trump's ass up and down. He looks, her highs, his lies, all of it on full display. And of course, the way people get news now is not they didn't watch the debate. Now I say they, I mean, not me. I don't know. Not people of my demographic, right? The youngs, I think the youngs, they're going to see it chopped up on TikTok or whatever, or in Reels, right? So the fact that there's all this amazing content out there, that then this army of officially deputized Swifties can just take and share, it's going to break all the algorithms. It is going to put that content out in ways that, Kamala could not buy that kind of distribution network of that, those top hits from the debate and Trump's horrible lies, right? So I just think that that's maybe not determinative, but holy crap, what a help, right? Because the folks who pay attention to Taylor Swift and, pay attention to people who pay attention to Taylor Swift, those are probably the folks who we really do need to make sure are checked in to vote and know that it's coming. And, so I think it's a boon to the campaign.
The one interesting thing, I think the right-wing media think that it went so poorly for Trump that they started spouting that Kamala may have had someone talking to her in her ear from an earring or something. Like there's no way she could have been that good. She had to have some really smart person in her ear,
And they're blaming the moderator. Never a good sign when you're blaming the moderator for the performance. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna move on because we do have a jam-packed show. But I did want to just check in with Chris on how is your local election shaping up?
Yeah. So I'm running for city council here, and there's actually 16 candidates running for 8 spots.
Okay.
So it's and there's a pretty good slate this time of really good people who have some wits about them and common sense and really want to work on things that are going to help people, like affordable housing, working on helping, start up businesses and things. And we recently had a meet and greet hosted by the Chamber of Commerce here, which went really, really nicely. And they'll do another one right before the election. And I've been getting out and doing some canvassing, and have a few people out doing some canvassing for me. So it's going pretty well. I'm hopeful that I might be able to go, around twice around the city before election time.
And so how does it, is it like one district you're all running for, or like how does is it? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, the whole city, all 8 of us are trying to garner the votes for it.
Well, good luck. I think we should share the picture of you and your son canvassing. It was the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, so good luck with that for sure. And let's do a quick news of the week. We've got. Do you have a website? Wait, I'm sorry. Do you have a website for your campaign? Can we put that in the show notes, Chris?
ChrisPriest.org. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So the story we wanted to cover, just revisiting something that came up last week when somebody on this show, not me, not Chris, was very proud of the fact that U of L was maintaining their diversity office, whereas University of Kentucky and I think Northern Kentucky University were like shuttering theirs. But there's been an opinion piece that's pointed out some issues. Kimberly, what's going on?
Let me just tell you this. It's some craziness going on, okay? And it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. So a really good person that I know that stands for the rights of not just Black people, but so many, Dr. Ricky Jones, who is a professor at the University of Louisville, and he wrote an op-ed in the Courier Journal, which is here in Louisville, Kentucky, about they lied to you in 2020. Now U of L and others are trying to distract you. So he says in this article that was very well written, it was great. It says from football players in Miami. I think everybody heard about, what is his name? Terrell Allen. I could have his name completely wrong, but the Miami Dolphin football player, one of the main star, was abused and by Miami police officers. So he's calling for them to be now fired. But Dr. Ricky Jones says that Black people are still under physical and psychological attack in America. And this isn't new. So does everybody remember when America's racial contradictions and assaults on Black citizens became too obvious to ignore in 2020? I remember that because we had, the Breonna Taylor, the George Floyd, Mr. David McAtee here in Louisville as well. Murkings by the great LMPD, Louisville Metro Police Department. And we saw on the TV, we saw everywhere all of these corporations, ones that you wouldn't even think had commercials on the internet, on TV about Black Lives Matter. So now universities and corporations and political leaders are saying now, we just didn't know that things were this bad and we need to do better. We must do better. We will do better. That was in 2020, but hey, we're now in 2024. So here it is. It was always said by the great author, a Black author, Toni Morrison. She talked about distractions. If people can keep you distracted, you will not pay attention to the actual indecencies and disrespect and racism that's happening right in front of your face. So another thing that we have to go through as Black people as well, a lot of times, and I know this for a fact, that he wrote in there that the very serious function of racism is distraction. And it keeps you from doing your work, and it keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Like, I understand that so much. But the distraction comes from Now it's bad. It's a bad word to say woke. CRT is another thing, and DE&I is one more thing. Now, I was so happy. I said, oh my God, U of L, University of Louisville wasn't on this list. And I'd be daggone if I turn around and I'm saying, okay, they're anti-Black as well. This is what's going on here. So they changed the name of the diversity office to the Office of Institutional Equity, which is limited. It's very deceptive and ahistorical. Now, there were two Black professors back in 1999. They weren't tenured. They were professors at the University of Louisville in 1999. It was two of them. And among the professors' demands was the creation of the diversity office. And they were the principal writers of its leader's job description. Make no mistake, everyone. Okay. The 1999 movement was one centered on fighting anti-Blackness, and Black people started it. Black faculty and students led it. How does Dr. Ricky Jones know all of that? Because back in 99, he was one of those of the two professors. So now, 25 years later, the chairperson of the board of trustees at the University of Louisville, Mrs. Medley, is trying to give us this scenario that this is more diversity. And, she says with an Orwellian double speak when she's speaking, and she's part of that all lives matter. And then she repeats over and over again, all means all. Never once mentions Black people who have been the vanguard of the justice movement, for which we all have benefited, for those of us that have attended the University of Louisville. So that's one. And the other thing that we really, really need to think about, and it really made me think as well when I saw Dr. Ricky Jones say this, what really got to me was that he said that we are still under assault. And we are. And a lot of people don't know, like Brown Foreman, our great company right here in Louisville, Kentucky, headquartered for Woodford Reserve, Jack Daniels, Finlandia Vodka. I can go on and on and on. Fetzer Wines, Corbel Champagne. They have dismantled their DE&I offices as well, and they haven't stated anything about diversity. However, that particular corporation has received numerous upon numerous of awards for their human rights efforts and their diversity efforts. So now it's gone. And the thing that people really don't understand is that even companies sometimes receive federal funds. And when you do, you are normally required that 10% of your suppliers are minority. And white women, my white sisters, you are considered a minority in this. So it's not just about Black folks. This is about Asian folks, Hispanic folks, women that are now going to be left out for the wolves because there are no safeguards where we can feel safe. Back to you, Aaron.
So definitely interesting to see the kind of blowback on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's sad to see U of L do a little bit of a shuffle step there, especially when the folks who've led the movement are still around to be checking in on them and trying to hold them account. So I think that's great to see the pushback against the blowback. But hey, I will say this: we are way behind schedule, so we need to move quickly. So we're putting that link to that opinion piece in the show notes, and it's in the comments. So please go ahead and check it out. But the next item on the show, we're very pleased to have Representative Cherlynn Stevenson joining us. This is, I don't know, fourth, fifth appearance on the show. Always happy to kind of share her views of what's going on. She, as I mentioned at the kind of top of the show, super tight district, tightest district, I think, on the map. and her, they redrew her district to make it harder. She won it once, and we're confident that she will win it again, but we know what it takes, which is a lot of work. So Representative Cherlynn Stevenson, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, hey, everybody. Thanks so much for having me.
So, yeah, how is your race shaking out right now? How are things feeling? Who are you running against you?
Things feel good. Obviously, we're out there knocking doors every day, trying to get to the folks, remind them that I'll be on the ballot again this November. We just had a really great post yesterday for our latest KREF reports. For our financial reports were due. I am way ahead of my opponent in money right now, money raised and money in the bank. So that was really good. We feel really good. But, we cannot take anything for granted. I held on to this district by 37 votes in 22. So, we have to just keep working until the last minute. If anybody wants to come out, help, knock doors, we would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So important district for sure, because you're in leadership, right? So, you've got a target on your back because, you've been effective. You are a proud Democrat and, they, I'm sure, would love to get rid of you.
Good. Yeah. So the other two members of leadership are both retiring. So I will be the only returning. So they would love to be able to wipe all three of us out if they could. So yeah, the target on my back can be seen from space.
And then I will certainly throw it to my co-host in just a moment, but I wanted to, as you're in leadership, really important to get your perspective on what's going on statewide. So I know we've got our kind of little kind of golden triangle crew here, but we would love to think about because we did the work. We, took a look at the different districts that were out there and how Andy did in a lot of these House districts.
Yes.
And he won a ton of House districts that were, that are represented currently by Republicans, right?
Yes.
So it seems like there are pickup opportunities out there. What would you circle as the top 5 or something?
Yeah, well, we believe that we do have some pickup opportunities, and I'm really proud of the job that we did in recruiting candidates all over the state. We have wonderful people running in Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, up north, down south. We have really great candidates across the board. But however, we all know that data is data, and we all know that there are districts that are much more flippable than others. And so we've really targeted several that are still in the Golden Triangle. Those are our best pickup opportunities. So we have some races in Northern Kentucky, some races in Louisville, and of course, one here in Lexington with Adam Moore that we believe that we can flip. So Adam, Colleen Davis in 31, Kate Farrow in 48. We believe that Matt Lehman will be able to hold on to Rachel Roberts' seat, which is 68 in Northern Kentucky. And I'm drawing a complete blank on the district number, but the district that was Buddy Wheatley's, he lost in 22 to Stephanie Dietz, and now she's up for the first reelection. We have a guy there running named Aaron Curran, who is really great guy, an attorney. So we're hoping that he can take that district back for us. Of course, we've also got John Stovall in Louisville, former president of Teamsters. So, we really believe in him. We've got a really great candidate against Jason Nemus, who I don't think anybody, any Democrat would be sad to see go. So, and those are just some of our top contenders. But again, we've got great candidates running Stanford in 39, Chantel Bingham in 56, I think it is, in Woodford County, Jessamine County. So again, we've got a lot of great people. These people could definitely use your help. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're listening, these candidates need your time, your talent, and your treasure. However you can help them, please find a way to get in contact with them. You can contact the folks here at the podcast. You can contact me. I'll gladly help put you in contact with some of these candidates. I'm sure that they would love for you to write postcards, help knock doors, take donations, make phone calls. Just like Kamala told us a few weeks ago, get out there and do something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's the number we need to flip to get something, right? So we're a super minority now, right?
Yes.
And I say we, I mean,
Yes.
you're the Democratic Party leader.
Um,
I'm just a guy who likes, policies that
yeah.
protect our future. So, not officially affiliated with the Democratic Party, but yeah. So if we want, to say maintain a veto or something like that, like how
Well,
many?
the first big goal is to get back to 40.
Mhm.
And then from there, obviously we got to get to 51. So we know that we're not going to get there overnight. We didn't get here overnight. So it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money, but I am invested in building back. I think, I am super, super, super hopeful that we can win and flip at least 5 this year. And so we have a plan, watching population trends and how those are changing, watching certain districts, watching the trends there as to who's turning purple, who's doing all this. We have a plan to get back. So we really believe that we're on track, that we have a plan, that we can go to folks, go to big donors and say, this is our plan, this is what we're doing. And that they're all going to buy into. I've spent a lot of time talking about Amendment 2 this cycle already. And so we're all trying to fight Amendment 2. We were all fighting Amendment 2 in 22. We all had to fight like the Dickens to keep Governor Andy Beshear. We all fight for those Supreme Court seats. But something that I tell people is it's kind of like that old story of there's all these people falling in the river and you're trying to pull all of these people out of the river. And finally somebody says, hey, shouldn't we go up the river and find out why people are falling in the first place? So we don't have to worry about gubernatorial vetoes. We don't have to worry about Supreme Court cases. We don't have to worry about these stupid amendments if we can get back to a majority in the House. So that is what it's going to take. So I'm hoping that everybody can see that logic and understand that if we can just start those things where they start, then we don't have all of this hard work to do in the back. So if everybody can just focus and dig in on trying to help us get at least one chamber back, and with gerrymandering being the way it is, the House is probably going to flip back before the Senate ever does. So that's where my focus is going to be. That's where my heart is in doing this work. We can do this. We can get back to the majority. We can stop some of this terrible legislation. But I can tell you, it doesn't necessarily, we don't have to get all the way back to 51. Like you just said, there are some things that we can do if we can just start working. I came in 2018, and at that point we were at 39. And I can tell you that the feel of things and the way that we were treated in Frankfort by the supermajority was a lot different at 39 than it is at 20. So just starting to chip away is what we have to do. But I think that we have a really good chance to give ourselves a really big boost this November.
That's awesome. All right, quick questions from Chris or Kimberly.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you're going door to door, what are the big issues? Say the top 3 issues that you're hearing from people that they want addressed.
So obviously there's a lot of hubbub about community safety right now. So we're talking a lot about that. Abortion is still a huge issue here. Almost no matter where people fall on the spectrum of how they feel about abortion, most people at least agree that there should be some exceptions. And the fact that we have a total abortion ban right now is not acceptable to a large majority of Kentuckians. And then public school. Obviously, public schools are a really big deal. They're on the ballot this November, so we're doing a lot of talk about that. But it's just economic populism is also something that people care about, and it kind of goes across the spectrum. People don't want their legislators bowing down to corporations and their large donors. They want us to go there, put our petty politics aside, work together, compromise to make progress for our people, to do things to make Kentucky a better place to work, live, and raise a family. And that's what we need to be doing. And so, I hear a lot of talk about that. People are sick of petty politics. They're sick of the nastiness, and they're ready to get past that and for us to get back to work for the people.
Awesome. Kimberly, one quick question. We're a bit behind schedule, so.
I don't have a question for Representative Stevenson. I I just know that we see each other all the time. I really admire all of the work that she does. She always supports at the Wendell Ford dinner, and she's done so much for not just her own community, she's done so much for the entire state. So just want to tell you thank you on that. And then I wanted to bring everybody's attention to, I finally got the avatar I was looking for. Well, you all see that, AKA, founded in 1908, that I'm an Alpha Kappa Alpha, just like my soror, which is Madam Vice President.
It's Kamala. All right, so you were the DNC, right?
Yes, yes, I was, and actually on Thursday night when Kamala accepted the nomination, her sorority sisters were sitting right behind us in the Kentucky section. It was amazing.
Quiet. It was pretty mellow.
It was absolutely magical. It was magical to be there. It was my first one, and so I think the combination of it being my first one, plus all of the excitement, the joy that we're experiencing with Kamala and Tim, and just the energy was electric. It was absolutely amazing.
I give kudos to anyone who went like, I'm going to go do my part for Joe Biden. I'm going to do what I need to do for Joe Biden. And then by the time you get there, like, oh my gosh, things have changed. So
it was a big change. And, even our tickets every single day had a little logo on them down in the bottom. It was a circle with a pair of Ray-Bans on it. So, like everything was prepared for Joe. So, the work that they did, the work that they did to get it turned over was just incredible. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Cherlynn. Really appreciate always you coming on and sharing your views. Really good to remind everyone that abortion still really matters. Yes. And the reason we have no exceptions in the state of Kentucky is because that GOP supermajority, right? Like we voted for it every single opportunity. Yes. We just need to keep doing it. We need to do it a little bit more effectively, apparently.
Yes. Yes, we do. So just last night in the debate, they were like, oh, states are voting on this. And I'm like, well, we did, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So annoying.
It doesn't matter.
So annoying.
Yeah, it's really annoying. So
right,
get out there and vote in November.
Yeah, and knock doors between now and November because we got some important stuff to do. All right.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rep. Cherlynn Stevenson. All right, so we're gonna roll right into our next guest because, as I mentioned a few times, we're a bit behind schedule tonight. But I do appreciate our next guest joining us, Representative Nema Kulkarni, who, of course, is from the great city of Louisville. Has done a lot of great work in the legislature. This is her second appearance on the show, so we're glad to have her back. But since the last time she was here, she just decided to start a whole nonprofit organization. So we wanted to hear about the great work that the New Americans Initiative is doing. And thank you, Representative Kulkarni, for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's see. Let's start with your New Americans Initiative, and tell us what it's all about, and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the New Americans Initiative, of course, is focused on new Americans in Kentucky. That includes individuals that are naturalized citizens and first generation. So the nonprofit's focus is as simple as it is ambitious. It is essentially to naturalize every eligible immigrant in Kentucky, get them registered to vote, and keep them engaged in every single election cycle through in-language resources and targeted canvassing for GOTV. That could be simple reminders in their own language on where to vote, what day to vote, when early voting starts. And just to give you a little bit of context, there's about 180,000 estimated immigrants in Kentucky. Only about 42% of those eligible to naturalize and register to vote. So we need to, only about 42% are registered to vote. So we've got quite a few more individuals that we need to get engaged on a civic level and participating in our representative democracy. In a state like Kentucky, where some races are won, by 8 votes, even if you're talking about 100-vote margin, when you're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of immigrants that could be engaged voters in our Commonwealth, that could be transformational.
Amazing. And so I think it was your website put it that the number of immigrants who are in the state, would be the third largest county in the state if they were all in one area, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
behind Fayette and Jefferson County. So this is interesting. I think the timing is fortuitous because we heard a lot about immigrants last night, right? So if you watch the debate, every time the previous president spoke, he turned it in a very ugly, scary, nasty fashion to immigration, right? So
Yes.
I don't know. As you were watching, I'm assuming you watched it. Like, what were your feelings in what he was, in seeing what he was doing and how he was doing it?
And I think Kamala said it best. I mean, this is just a rehash from the same tired old playbook. Immigration was one of Trump's signature issues, build the wall, talking about immigrants as though they were criminals and bringing drugs and trying to steal jobs. I mean, these are those same three sort of bits of rhetoric have been used in this country since the 1790s to demonize and vilify immigrants. And of course, the immigration history in this country is one of simply trying to keep certain groups out. We didn't want, for instance, Irish people here. We didn't want Polish people, Italian people. And the Immigration Act of 1965, which was, of course, passed on the heels of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, allowed individuals for the first time in our history, again, this is 1965, to enter the United States from Africa, from Asia, from South America, from Central America. And so I think there is a lot of anxiety around the demographic shift that we are facing, and that is what Trump is tapping into. What he does not talk about is the enormous benefit that we get from the immigrants that do still choose to come to the United States in terms of the workforce, the jobs that they create, because they are also small business owners. I think over half of our Fortune 500 companies are founded or co-founded by immigrants. I mean, they have contributed in myriad ways to our economy, to our culture, to our society. And none of that gets put into the narrative when Trump talks about immigration. Of course, that is the only reason we remain a superpower today. That's the only reason we remain globally relevant, is that people are choosing to continue to come to the United States, and they're choosing to come to Kentucky because we have a lot going for us in terms of safety, affordability, and quality of life.
Amazing. Awesome. Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show with us. And I want to say also thank you for doing the work that you do, because that also impacts me. I have my wife is an immigrant from China. She's still on her has her green card, and she can't quite do the whole citizenship switch thing yet.
Well, get her in touch with me. We'll put her in the pipeline.
Sounds good. But thank you for doing that work. And how far along are you in this process? Like, how many people have you been able to get a hold of and start getting into this process?
Yeah, so I will have those numbers probably in October. We have a lot of our clinics and workshops happening in September, actually. There's Citizenship Day. I think it's actually Citizenship Month. There's a voter registration day. There's a lot of activities. Just earlier today, I was at a green card clinic, which is an adjustment of status clinic at Iroquois Library, which is a great partner for us. We are partnering with the U of L clinic, the immigration clinic that they recently started, and our local refugee resettlement agencies. So I don't have exact numbers, but we have a lot of workshops and clinics that we have planned, that we started actually sort of kicked off during the naturalization event in World Fest. If you were able to I don't know if anybody was able to go there, but if you've never been to a naturalization ceremony, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most wholesome and inspiring experiences you'll probably have.
I'm going to throw it to Kimberly in just a second, but I was hoping maybe Representative Kulkarni, you could do a kind of like, what is the thumbnail sketch of the process of naturalization, right? So, it sounds like what you're describing right now, getting immigrants to legally be able to vote is like the worst, fever dream of the right wing, right? They're like, oh my God, it's true. They are doing what they're, we've accused them of doing, right? So, what is the like kind of legal process that you're shepherding people through? How long does it take? And will it help us to get rid of all the Republicans?
No promises there. Of course, the nonprofit is nonpartisan, so we just want to make sure people are engaged, no matter how they vote. We are wanting people to understand that their voice matters. And ideally, what will happen is if you have an informed electorate, they will look at the policies that are being voted on and understand the importance of electing people that are going to vote policies in that help their families and not hurt them, that do not demonize their culture, do not demonize themselves, and instead celebrate and support the contributions that immigrants have made in Kentucky and in the United States. That being said, I mean, it's not, we heard this also during the debate where Trump said, I don't know how many times, something along the lines of, they're letting millions of people across the border and they're, making them all vote Democrat. That is not true. Immigrants are not a monolith. There are different cultural experiences and backgrounds, and therefore there are multiple ways that they vote. There are multiple parties they might belong to, and so it's not a question of if you're an immigrant, you're a Democrat. I find it interesting that that's a conflation that Trump made. But there's no guarantee of that. I think what we need to make sure that we capture in any engagement that we see within our foreign-born community is that we are providing them with options that actually help them understand why the policies that are being made on their behalf or about them, why they are not at the table, why they're not in the rooms where these decisions are being made. I'm right now the only foreign-born immigrant in Kentucky, and I would like that to change. But we have to build this infrastructure and we have to build a pipeline of awareness and engagement before we get to that point. And that is also part of the New Americans Initiative. We have a C3 and we have a C4. And we will be working towards that goal of transforming Kentucky. I don't know if we'll be able to get rid of all the Republicans, but I think we need balance in this country. I think we need balance in this Commonwealth. And I think the only truly transformational change we're going to see is with young voters and with New American voters.
And then, so you point out you're the only, kind of non-native born representative in the House, or I imagine in the Senate as well. Would be my guess.
In the legislature.
The legislature. So, but that process. So you were not born here. You became a citizen. What is like the duration? How long does that take? Like just the quick thumbnail sketch. Like, how does that work? Because I'm like a horrible white middle class guy who's like so out of touch and doesn't understand it at all. But if you could help inform me and maybe inform some of our viewers as well about what that looks like.
Sure. So in a nutshell, our immigration system is divided into non-immigrant visas and then immigrant visa categories. So that's basically, are you here as a visitor, as a student, as some sort of a temporary worker, or are you here on some green card permanent residence basis? So for instance, Chris's wife, you can get a green card through family, you can get a green card through employment. Generally speaking, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you get your green card and you'll be eligible for citizenship in 3 years. Any other category, any other green card category, you're looking at a 5-year wait once you become a permanent resident. And so that includes our refugee population. As soon as they enter the United States, they are permanent residents. And then 5 years down the road, they would be eligible for citizenship. Same with asylees, same with everybody that has gotten their green card through an employer that has sponsored them. It's important to note that the green card process itself is very long, right? At this green card clinic, we were telling folks that they might need to wait anywhere from 6 to 30 months for the processing of their green card, and USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, is currently very, very backlogged in the processing of all applications, but especially green cards and work permits. They are a fee-based system, and so it's not, whenever we talk about Congress being shut down and that being used as some sort of a playing card in terms of trying to fund the government. It's fee-based. So it is entirely based on fees that employers and individuals pay, which can run into the thousands of dollars per applicant. And they're willing to pay, and then they're willing to wait for months and months and possibly stretching into years just to become green card holders, and then they can become citizens. So there is no way to become a citizen without first having a green card for that period of time, whether it's 3 years or 5 years.
Gotcha. And then there's a test as well. Is that right?
There is a test for naturalization. So in the citizenship application process, you apply, and then during the actual interview, part of your naturalization interview is a civics exam and an English language exam. And the civics exam, I'm sure, you've seen late night talk show hosts, walk around with a microphone asking Americans, do you know the answers to these basic questions about our government, which they can't answer. It's basic civics. It is 100 questions, and you have to answer, I think, about 10 of them correctly, although the officer can ask you as many questions. And then out of the English language exam, it's, you're just basically reading, writing, and if you're able to communicate with the officer, that's a big part of it. But yeah, that civics portion, I think, is pretty critical because, there's not a lot of Kentuckians, I would bet, that could answer those questions, me included.
Kimberly, do you have a question for the representative?
Yes. How you doing, Nima?
I'm
Good to see
good.
you
How are
tonight.
you?
I'm doing pretty good. Quick questions. Number one, I wanted to piggyback off of something that you said, and I wanted to make sure that our listeners and viewers remember that Trump said this, that he said that the immigrants were coming to take Black jobs.
That's right.
We are still confused about what Black jobs are, but I've ordered a lot of t-shirts, and I want to send you one for free. And on the front of it, it says, I'm working my Black job. So I got one for you, Chris and Aaron, too. I'm not going to leave you all out, but
I'll wear that with my white guys for Kamala hat. It'll just really throw people for a loop.
But the other thing, I mean, all of the questions everyone else had was just wonderful and great. But this is something that I'm asked a lot of by different people. I work in a very diverse I work retail. I'm an executive for Macy's. So, I mean, we have people from everywhere that work within the store. Okay. Now, the thing that people ask me a lot, Americans, why do some immigrants, why are they able to come to America and receive so many perks and things of this nature? And I know that a lot of times, I do have Cuban family that lives in Cuba, and some have moved here actually to Louisville.
Yep.
And they're getting their rent paid for a few months. They're getting all of these perks, all of these great things. And most Cubans are going to vote Republican a lot of times because Obama stopped the wet foot, dry foot policy that used to be in Florida. Are you all familiar, Chris? Wet foot, dry foot. It was if you were coming from Cuba and you were able to make it to the sand, okay, to dry land, then you were safe. If they caught you on the water, you were no longer safe. So it was the Obama administration that stopped wet foot, dry foot. So then that made a lot of the Cuban community very upset with the Democrats. Okay. But the thing of it is, why does it appear sometimes that, the people that come in get more perks, they get more than the actual people that live here, were born here? Why is that? And is that something that we can make more fair?
Well, there's a couple of different things. So Cubans have a very special status in the United States, mainly because we wanted to kind of stick it to Castro. So it was just more of a, blow against communism. If you want to come here and be a capitalist, we will help you. Sort of fast track. And they still do have a separate sort of green card categories, the Cuban Adjustment Act that allowed them to to get their permanent residence essentially 1 year. So those timeframes I was talking about, 3 years and 5 years, Cubans can apply for their green cards 1 year after they come into the United States, and then of course they would be eligible for citizenship. That's a lot faster in a lot of ways than people that are being sponsored by employers, for instance, because there's a lot of per country quotas that were put in place in the 90s. And so you've got individuals from India and China or Philippines and Mexico who are waiting for years and years to simply be able to apply for their green card. So there is a lot of disparity. Now, I will say one of the reasons you see differences in what individuals may get once they come to the United States is because of the category that they enter. So refugees do get a lot of help, but that's because they are displaced from their home countries. So these are not individuals that chose to come here, right? They didn't make a plan and then move to the US and they had a job or they had family. They were displaced and were designated as refugees by the United Nations. So the UNHCR designates refugees, and they go to the countries and they vet these individuals for years. I just did a green card application for a lady and her 3 daughters who had lived in a refugee camp from 1997 onwards until last year, until 2023. She was born in Congo. The refugee camp that she was in for that many years was in Tanzania. And so these are not individuals that have a choice of leaving their home country. They have had to leave. They've been forced to leave. They have been resettled in other countries. So they've been resettled, in the United States. They might be resettled in Canada, depending on whether they have family ties, cultural ties, community ties. And so they come here with nothing. There is nothing that they have. They have no support, no family, no nothing. So when you say perks, really what they get is assistance to put a roof over their head. They get assistance through the resettlement agencies to get job placement. A lot of times those jobs are not in any fields that they were working in prior to having been displaced and resettled in the US. But these are not individuals that have chosen to come here and are getting some additional benefit. They have been forcibly moved out of their home country and have come, in fact, from refugee camps that they've lived in for years in other countries before they're finally resettled in the United States. Now, U.S. citizens and native-born individuals or whoever we're talking about that are not refugees, of course, we have issues with affordable housing. Of course, we have issues with living wages. We have issues with all kinds of things. And that includes things like transportation, people being able to afford cars, houses, food, being able to pay rent. This is not a situation where you can compare those two groups of individuals because those are people that live here, and there are different federal and state programs to assist those. Now, if we want to make those more robust, we have to fund them. We have to make sure that we support them. We support the organizations that are implementing these programs. But refugees specifically, that's the group you're talking about that gets any kind of federal benefit, and they only get it for 6 months. So imagine yourself having to leave without any warning, without any chance to plan for it or pack up everything that you might need. You are moved to another country for several years. You are then finally resettled into a country where you don't speak the language, you have no family, you have no support system. You get 6 months to find a job, whether you're, educated or trained in something else, that's not even a conversation that you have. you have 6 months to find your own place to live. You have 6 months basically to be on your own, to figure everything else out for yourself and possibly your children. So it's a different conversation. So what you would classify as perks, I would say, are just basic tools for individuals to be able to survive where they have found themselves after that long wait and that displacement from their home country.
Super informative. Thank you, Representative Kulkarni. And I know we've kept you, but I want to just, we gotta ask, like, what is going on with you and the ballot and the legal challenges? And it does seem like a less than ideal situation, but and also it seems like the Republican legislature kind of circled you as an opportunity to, and I think they passed some crazy bills as well to try to make it harder for you to be seated. So where does it currently sit right now in terms of listening to the voters who very clearly said they want you to be their representative?
Right.
But it seems like there's lots of different things that are happening right now to try to keep you off the ballot.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different individuals involved in that. All of that will come out in due time. But I think fundamentally where we are, just again, in a nutshell, the Supreme Court issued their opinion. So they actually had an order that they issued back in June. They didn't issue a full opinion as to the reasoning or anything like that. So nobody actually took any action. And by nobody, I mean the Secretary of State, the Board of Elections, the county clerks. So essentially, no candidate had been certified after I won the election by 80% of the vote. So on August 22nd, the Supreme Court issued their opinion, which left open, right, the last section of their opinion discussed a case where an individual who lost an election was also trying to become seated as the representative. And of course, they said you can't do that. Second place doesn't just become the winner, by default, just because someone was disqualified. We saw that again, of course, when Danny Alvarez passed the day after he won the primary, which was incredibly tragic. And Danny was actually at my, in 2018, my primary election night celebration. So it was a terrible loss. And even in that situation where an individual has passed away, they said that, a third place finisher in a judicial race does not get to become one of the two people to appear on the general election ballot. But again, in a nutshell, what that means is that there is a vacancy in nomination. So because no Republican had filed to run. So there was nobody to run in the general, and there was a vacancy in the nomination, which is different from the vacancy in the seat because I'm still in the seat. So essentially what the Secretary of State did is immediately declare a vacancy. So the Supreme Court issued their opinion, I think maybe a couple of hours maximum. The Secretary of State had issued a public statement that he was going to declare a vacancy, which he did that following Thursday. The Monday following the opinion, our Jefferson County Democratic Party began advertising for the vacancy. And so we had 5 candidates total that submitted their names. I was one of them to be nominated as the Democratic candidate in the general election in November. I got that vote unanimously. So now we're talking about 80% of the vote in the primary. We're talking about unanimous vote by our Jefferson County precinct members who are voting. And we have a vacancy declaration by the Secretary of State. The individual that I beat in the primary. So I beat Mr. Horlander, of course, by 80% the last time he challenged me in 2020. I beat Mr. Zeitz in just this past May by, again, 80% of the vote. So Mr. Zeitz and Mr. Horlander teamed up in their latest effort to try to keep me off the ballot. And at this point, it certainly seems like a very a vendetta of some kind, but by 2 men who I have beaten in equal proportions. So I think the circuit court where they filed it, they took it out of Jefferson County. They filed it in Franklin Circuit Court for whatever reason. We got a very strong opinion from Judge Shepard, and that that should end it. They are trying, I think, to appeal and do other things, but it is difficult, very difficult at this point because of the primary results, the nomination results, the fact that there's a vacancy that has been declared by our chief elections officer, and the fact that the ballots have been printed. So I'm not sure where or what else they're going to try to do, but it appears that I will be on the November ballot. I look forward to putting this long saga behind me and getting back to work for the people of my district.
But you noted there's not actually a Republican, so you'll be on the ballot, but you'll be the only option on the ballot. Is that how that'll work?
Correct. So the Republicans also had a chance to nominate. So, when there's a vacancy, either party gets to nominate somebody. But the Republicans did not nominate anybody, and the Democrats nominated me.
They're just like, nah.
It's a tough district for them.
For them, yeah.
It really is.
We're not in the political prediction business, but I think you're going to do okay on the election. So yeah, that's amazing. What a saga. Appreciate all that you're doing at the New Americans Initiative. Appreciate the work you put in at the legislature. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us tonight. And good luck with all that's coming, especially with the workshops. I think it sounds really important work for sure to help people kind of grab their voice and have the tools at their disposal to become citizens of our great nation, which is awesome. So very cool stuff. All right.
Absolutely. Good to see you all as always.
All right. That's mostly the show. We've gone long. We're going to do a quick call to action. And I don't know, it's next Thursday that we're going to invite you warmly to come to our election kickoff event. Chris, can you make it? Are you going to be able to make it?
Yes, I'll be there. Yeah.
That's all right. So you get to hang out with Chris. That's pretty cool. And I'm not going to ask, I'm not going to ask Miss Kimberly if she's going to be able to make it because I don't want to be disappointed on live air.
Why?
Are you going to make it?
Maybe. Maybe, baby.
So yeah, we are doing our election launch event, as you just heard from Cherlynn Stevenson, less so with Representative Kulkarni. There are some very tight races, very important races happening all across our state. We've had Adam Moore on this show. We've had obviously Representative Stevenson. We've talked about Amendment 2 till we're blue in the face. We're going to talk more about it. We're going to get somebody on the show to talk a little bit more about Amendment 2, the voucher bill, and we are going to circle those specific elections and do everything in our power to put Adam Moore in the State House, to return Cherlynn Stevenson to the State House, and to reject Amendment 2 once more. We need your help to do it, is kind of what it comes down to. So there's a lot of work that it takes to do this stuff. And I'll be honest, I was thrilled. We talked about the debate last night. I'm excited about this race, but folks, I'm going to be honest with you because we are the kernels of truth. I don't think it changes what happens in Kentucky very much, right? At the top of the ticket, 99 times out of 100, Trump is going to win in a landslide in Kentucky. But that does not change the fact that we have got to reject Amendment 2. We've got to do what we can to send better people to the legislature and hold on to the best people. Because we know that people love Andy, but Andy doesn't have much power when he squares off against this GOP super duper majority. So we need to start stripping back those outrageous margins that the GOP have in Frankfurt. So yeah, does that make sense? Are people with me on that one? Chris, are you psyched about that?
Oh yeah, I mean we've really got to take down Amendment 2. That's a huge deal, and even with Trump on the ticket, there's a lot of great things that we can do to get people in the House of Representatives, to change things here in the state. Like yes, it's going to go for Trump probably by a large margin, but not all of those folks just vote for Trump. They also vote down ballot, and they don't always just vote straight Republican ticket, which I wish we could get rid of that straight ticket option.
Good God, yes. So many democratic reforms, some democracy, small d democracy reforms that could be useful in this state for sure. But, the Democrats didn't want to give it up when they had like a lock, and I'm sure the Republicans don't want to give it up now that they've got a lock, right? So, we got to figure out other ways and other strategies to make a difference there. But that's a good point. But yeah, really important stuff. There's an event on Facebook you can reply to and RSVP to. Please do show up and join us. It's going to be we are going to hold it at the Shamrock Bar and Grill at Brannon Crossing. So it's technically Nicholasville, but it's very close to Lexington. And it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday, September 19th. We're calling it Do Something for a Better Commonwealth because Michelle Obama told us to do something. And I always listen to Michelle Obama whenever she gives us guidance. All right, so I hope everyone can join us that Thursday evening next week. Should be a lot of fun, and we're gonna provide some appetizers. Don't come super hungry unless you're gonna order your own sandwich. But there'll be some appetizers. The bar will be available for you to order things and pay for them. We're a grassroots. Unless I get a $5,000 donation on our Act Blue tonight, we're not gonna buy your beverage. But if we get a $5,000 donation on Act Blue, we will buy your beverages.
And I'll double down on that. If we get that, I will bring chocolate samples for everybody.
Oh my God! Somebody got to kick in $5,000. Those chocolates are amazing. If you really do need to try Chris's chocolates, if you've not done it, somebody needs to kick in $5,000. Anyway, y'all, thanks so much for committing to joining us. Or maybe we'll see Kimberly there. I don't know, but it should be a lot of fun, and we'll have some speakers and we'll have some music because NATO's going to play. So, our sometimes producer, sometimes co-host, always entertaining Nate Orshan, who goes by the stage name NATO, will play some songs.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm really excited at that. Kim, you got to come. Come on.
I'm trying to figure out right now how far away is Louisville to the Shamrock Inn.
There's two Shamrocks. So make sure it's the Brannon Crossing one in Nicholasville. Don't do the one in Lexington.
Nicholasville. Okay. I maybe can make that. I probably will do all fake out drinks because I got to drive.
But
it'd be great to see everybody. It'd be great to see everybody.
It would be great to see everybody. All right. So can you close us out, though, Kimberly?
I sure will. It's been such an exciting night to be with you, Aaron and Chris tonight, and also for Representative Cherlynn Stevenson and my girl Nima Kulkarni. So to just let you know, the disclaimer, Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, known as CAVE, and we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is always to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Next week's show is just going to be fabulous as always. And another thing that's fabulous as always is our producer tonight, our very own and adored Annabel Nagel. And like Aaron was saying, that Nate Orshan, he wrote and performed our theme song. So you can find more information and music there at natosongs.com. And if you miss our weekly, oh my goodness, put that picture back up. Oh my goodness. It scared me. Oh, I'm scared. So anyway, she just kind of blanked that on the screen and it just kind of scared me. But anyway, if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcast, and our show notes are available always on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you do get your podcast. I'm not going to say if you do, I'm going to say when you listen to our podcast, if you could give us a 5-star review, it really helps us a lot. And you know what? You can do this while you're like at work, in your car. You can listen to this over again. Make sure you share and like on Facebook and share it out to all your friends. And some logo and graphic content was provided by Couch Fire Media. Hey, everybody, just make sure you're trying to round everybody up to vote. And we will see you next week on the same bat channel at the same bat time. So have a good rest of your week.